guys are ready? Yep. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Board of Education work session meeting. I'd like to point out the exits to you. They are behind the audience over there, and they are behind us at this end of the room. I would ask you all to please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are changing our format slightly with our board meetings. This is something that we had discussed, and it doesn't really impact anyone except the board, so just to let you know that. We had discussed this at our board retreat this summer, and so there's a little bit of tweaking on how we're going to be doing business. The work session is for open dialogue between the board and presenters, and on work sessions there will be no board comments, and they will be board comments at our business meetings. We are certainly retaining both times for public comments, so we are up to that right now. Anyone who wishes to speak to us, that's fine, speak to the board. We'd ask you to please state your name, and remember that we ask you to stay within the 3-minute time limit, and the microphones are at the ends of the tables. Anyone wishing to speak at this time? Okay, so we're going to move on to our independent auditors report. Our independent auditors, the EFRP Group, CPAs PLLC, will give their independent auditors report covering the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021.
Good evening, everyone. If you can't hear me, just let me know. I'm Doug Zimmerman, and I'm the partner on the engagement. We were hired for the first time this year for 2021 to conduct the audit of the district. Just kind of as a background, the district went through an RFP process. We responded to that. We do about 25 school districts across New York State, so this is one of the areas of specialty that we deal with. So we gave certainly a fresh perspective to the audit approach that we took. We identified the significant audit areas for the organization and obtained a detailed understanding of the internal controls that the district has in place for overseeing those areas. And then we did tests of those internal controls, both walkthroughs of your control systems as well as compliance testing of the controls. And then based on those results, we devised an audit plan that we followed. And certainly during the course of an engagement, it's possible that we deviate from that plan based on what we see. And we're happy to report back that there certainly were no issues that caused us to have any type of change to the audit plan that we had developed. We expect to issue what are called unmodified opinions or clean opinions on the financial statements of the organization. There were no exceptions noted that deviated from generally accepted accounting principles. As a governmental entity, the district follows Governmental Accounting Standards Board's pronouncements. And we'll have actually several opinions. There will be a clean opinion on the basic financial statements, a clean opinion on the federal grant compliance, or what is referred to as a single audit. You receive about $1.5 million roughly of federal pass-through dollars from the state, and we audit that as part of the single audit that we perform. And then there's a separate audit on the extra classroom activity funds, and that again will also be a clean opinion. Everything that we asked for, all the records that we wanted, the communication that we had outstanding cooperation, everything was freely provided. As part of the audit results, there are no instances of non-compliance or issues with regards to internal controls that would be required to be reported under government auditing standards, so it is really a clean bill of health. One of the documents that we do provide is what we call a management letter. It's typically our ability to provide more immaterial issues, housekeeping items, best practices. The only thing that we've provided in that is a comment with regards to an upcoming GASB pronouncement, GASB 87 for leases. So there weren't even any housekeeping items, and that really attests to not only the end of the year information that we're looking at, but certainly means that the documents are being maintained properly throughout the year. So there are no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no non-compliance findings, either with regards to financial controls or uniform guidance, which is really the single audit. The major program that we examined this year was the Child Nutrition Cluster, and there's actually 4 components to that. You can see there the school breakfast program, the lunch program, the commodities program, and then the summer program. So all of that was examined as part of our audit engagement. Another document that we've provided is what's called a report to the board. It's required communication between an audit firm and the governing body. And there's a host of items that we make mention in there. It's all the required communication that under our professional standards we have to provide to in this case, an audit board, an audit committee, and the governing board. Significant accounting policies. There was a new GASB statement that was effective for this year. GASB 84, which changed how you handle certain activities in the district. And so if you read the financial statements, you'll see what's called a restatement. That is not a negative thing whatsoever. It's just the accounting terminology of how that new GASB statement gets recorded because the transactions get recorded back to the beginning of the fiscal year to June 30th of 2020. So there were actually no issues with regards to the accounting practices. Accounting estimates, when financial statements and underlying accounting records are prepared, management makes estimates in a number of different items, and a good example is that useful lives of your capital assets. We look at all the estimates and make sure that they're reasonable in light of all known circumstances. The financial statement disclosures detail with regards to the notes to the statements. These financial statements, as in most school districts, most governmental organizations, go on for some 60 pages. There are a lot of notes that expand on the account balances, and one of the tasks that we do is make sure that you have all the required disclosures and that they're all appropriate and consistent with the financial statements. We certainly had no difficulties in performing the audit. There were no, as I mentioned, no changes to our audit strategy and plan. There were no consultations that we're aware of with other accountants, no disagreements with management, and no other matters that would warrant consideration by the Board of Ed or the Audit Committee. We did review the results of the audit in detail with the Audit Committee last Friday. We reviewed the draft. And actually, I've done probably hundreds of these meetings, over the last bunch of years. And I just did want to make one comment that you could tell that the audit committee members had read in detail the draft that we provide them. And that certainly is not the case at every meeting I go to. Sometimes I get a lot of blank stares back. So it really attested to the fact that they took that job very seriously, which gives us confidence that they're doing that throughout the year. And that certainly bodes well for the district as a whole and certainly for our audit process. So with that, I'll turn it over if there's any questions that anyone has.
And no corrective action needed, no corrective action plan by the district, everything was right where it should be.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just to, we were also impressed by the presentation as well, so thank you for all the work that went into this, and you did a good job of explaining everything clearly, both high level and in detail, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a quick comment. You commended us as members of the Audit Committee. You also commended the district and Harvey and his team for their work as well. So just want to make that public that was said on Friday, and obviously it's a very clean report. So.
Yeah, and this is a team approach. I mean, we certainly come in at the end of the year, we do the audit, but the only way we're able to present that, the results of that at the audit committee and at the board is that management does their part not only during the audit but throughout the year in maintaining those records. So and that is not the case at every engagement we do. Certainly, we do see a lot of problems. Turnover of personnel, lack of institutional knowledge, just not understanding. This is a completely set of different rules than a for-profit enterprise, and not every accountant picks that up quite as easily. So yeah, you certainly have a very good staff internally. I'm sorry.
No, it's not you, it's the mic. Okay. The management letter I know is extremely important, and we received this, and just to say that we did all go through these reports so that anybody watching this, it seems like there's a whole lot of information. We're just sitting here looking at this on the board. But we did get your draft report in advance. I've reviewed it. I did ask our business administrator if there was anything in particular, because it's a lengthy report, and everything is in very good order. And I appreciate the committee going through it, and I just had one of the people from the committee tell me that they went through it with a fine-tooth comb, which I could not do at the moment. I went through it, though. Thank you.
As I mentioned, it was a very good audit committee meeting, a lot of good questions, and I mean, actually, we did change a couple of terminologies within the report. That's how detailed the review was. So we did revise just in a couple of spots, just some wording in the report. So again, they certainly went through it in very good detail.
And Nancy, if I could just make a piggyback on a few comments there we heard. First, we switched external auditors this year, and normally when you switch anything, there's lots of risks associated with it. But I have to say that the professionalism on both sides, both the district as well as with the EFPR group, was outstanding and made this one of the most seamless, at least from an audit committee member's perspective, one of the most seamless kind of changes of an external auditor that I've witnessed in my career in finance. And my hat's off to both sides for making it seamless and for getting the job done. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We so appreciate your efforts. The Audit Committee, our hats are off to you guys. Thank you for all your time and efforts on that. And Harvey, absolutely, thank you so much for all the work you do on behalf of this district.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay, next we're going to move to committee updates. I do have a question before I have you all give your updates. Nina, you're a NYSSBA delegate, am I correct?
That's right.
Okay, so I don't know if everybody got the email from NYSSBA with the resolutions. I did have a chance to look through them. And the meeting is the 18th. I'm correct on that also. Okay. So I have a concern that I want to just share with you under this with a couple of two late resolutions, both by the Beacon City School District. And so you guys can look at this whenever you get a chance, but proposed late resolution 2 and late resolution 3, both by Beacon City School District and Dutchess County. Beacon is proposing that the New York State School Boards Association support legislation at the state level that would set limits from the start time for schools to be no earlier than 8 a.m. That's a concern because they can really do what they want to do, and I don't think that we should be delegating what the entire state does. But and then resolution number 3 is, you'll like this, Terry, this will bring back memories to you. New York State School Boards Association supports legislation at the state level that would allow for school board members to receive a stipend for their work as a trustee. Yeah, so I mean, Rochester is the only school district at this time, sorry, that and they get quite a stipend, so we won't even go there, and their own office and lots of other stuff, but, so those two are a concern to me, as well as proposed resolution 14 from the Ulster BOCES Board that wants them to have the New York State School Boards Association have as a legislative imperative all immunizations required of students be required of all school staff where medically appropriate for adults. So that's a concern to me, that NYSSBA would be endorsing that and that, whatever. So those are just, but the ones from BOCES just kind of blew my mind. But anyway, so just anybody wants to look anything over and let Nina know what your concerns are with anything. And so that's the NYSSBA update on that. Brendan, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay,
Absolutely.
for committees.
So, yeah, we had our communication committee meeting on Wednesday, the 22nd. It was a great discussion. We discussed the communication plan for the upcoming capital project, focusing mostly on phase 1, which will be basically from September to roughly January, during which the committee will gather input from the community. We identified a few action items of which we are already pushing forward on, creating a survey that will be sent to every member of the community that's already in its final stages, identifying small community groups that committee members can target for small forums in the late fall. That's going to be diving deeper on that will be the topic of our next committee meeting. And scheduling forums for November and December, which we've already tentatively set dates for, coordinating with the district about creation of capital project specific website, which we've already begun the process of, and just talking about early messaging for what the phase 2 will be, which is obviously going to be informed by phase 1. I'll be reaching out to the committee members tomorrow to schedule our next meeting so we can go over that specific action item of those community input groups. But other than that, I think the plane is off the runway, and we're on our way to the destination.
Thank you, Brendan. Teresa, update on policy?
We have a policy meeting scheduled for Wednesday, October 20th at 7 p.m. And I guess we'll have it in the basement of the main building.
Don?
So you heard the external auditor talk about the audit committee meeting. It was a very participative meeting. My hat's off to audit committee members Brendan, Jim, and Nina. We really put the guys through a ringer, but in the end, we're really satisfied with the work product that they've done on behalf of the district and the stakeholders. So I think everyone can be confident in the internal controls as well as the numbers that are on those financial statements. Very important. We're going to meet again, the audit committee, on the 28th of this month, October. The purpose is to review RFP submissions for our our internal auditor, which the last time we looked at that contract, I believe, was about 12 years ago. So it's time to go through the process. There's nothing of a concern as it pertains to the internal audit that we've had for the last 12 years. It's just that the committee decided it was time to put it out for bid again to see what we can do and see if we can get any benefits like we did with the external auditor. Thank you.
Louis, any update on scholarship?
Scholarship Committee. So there were some questions that a board member had about some wording and some basic smithing, and that's been addressed, as well as there was a concern with the rubric, and we discussed it. I addressed the concerns with the member, and it seems that that's off the table. It's understood that where this is going. I'm looking for proposing this at our next business meeting for adoption. Mr. DeBold has it in his custody. He's going to be the chair of this this scholarships review, along with Mr. Piazza being his second. APs are involved, counselors, a slew of good people that will be the reviewers. So Mr. DeBold has kindly enough said he would work personally on this to take this off the ground. So hopefully next meeting we can set this in motion.
Thank you, Larry.
The Facilities Committee met with the Communications Committee on the 28th, and so they were welcomed. Terry started the discussion by addressing engagement, public relations and marketing, and Brendan discussed possible ways to engage the public. And then there was a rather lively discussion on various ideas that were kicked around. And Luis Rodriguez from the Palomro group was introduced and described what a construction manager does. That was the group that we last meeting appointed as a construction manager. A discussion of the scope of the project was had, and Bob and Garrett from Tetra Tech and Lou gave us their perspective and discussed a possible timeline. 2 actions were set for the next meeting. Bob, Garrett, Lou will work with Harvey and Brendan to set a schedule for communications. And Lou will work with Harvey and Walter to set up cost estimates for the items on our planning document, so that at our next meeting, we'll be able to get into the meat of the discussion. And our next meeting is on Tuesday, 10/12 at 6:30 in this building in the gym, because somebody preempted us. Thank you.
Margaret?
Visitation Committee is in the throes of our first round of visitations to the various schools. We have remaining Lee Road. When that's all done, we'll compile the entire report and then give it to everybody. So it's in progress.
Okay, and then before we move on, I just want to remind all the committee members that the committees need to get agendas out ahead of time. They need to get minutes out. I would ask that within a week of your meeting, that the minutes are given to Linda, and then they get posted because they have to be made available to the public. You can decide who on each committee does the minutes and is responsible for them. Usually, minutes are done, and then they go to the committee for, just to look over, and if everybody thinks they're okay, then they're sent on to Linda to be posted under the Board of Ed tab under committees. So please, let's be very diligent in getting that there so that the public can also read that, see what's going on with the committee. Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Is there anyone that wishes to pull out any item right now? Okay, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda as submitted by the Superintendent of Schools, items 2 through 7. Do I have a motion?
So move.
And a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, motion carried. Okay, so we are up to our second opportunity for public comments. If there's anyone that wishes to make a comment, to speak to the board, we would ask you to please come forward. The microphones are at the end of the tables. Please state your name, and please, we would ask you to please be respectful and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Well, at this time, we are going to, this is like the fastest meeting known to mankind, which makes many of us very happy, although we love being here and we really do enjoy being together. So I do need to state that. Okay, and can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Margaret's pumpkins.